From the JAMA Network, this is the JAMA Medical News Podcast, discussing timely topics in clinical medicine, biomedical sciences, public health, and health policy, featured in the medical news section of JAMA.
Welcome to this week's News Roundup. I'm Kate Schweitzer, Associate Managing Editor of JAMA Medical News. On today's show, we're discussing a growing movement that aims to prepare all physicians to care for older adults. Freelance journalist Emily Harris is here. Emily, thanks for joining.
Thanks, Kate.
So, Emily, you've reported on this push for more widespread geriatrics training in medical schools and beyond. What does this training look like right now, and why is there such an effort to make it part of every clinician's education?
Yeah, so when covering this story, what really stood out was how inconsistent geriatrics education still is. Depending on where you train, you may get meaningful, structured exposure to geriatrics principles, or you might get very little. What I found particularly surprising is that there's recent evidence showing that fewer than half of U.S. medical schools require geriatrics education, and that the proportion requiring it might have actually declined compared with a couple decades ago. The trend toward less required geriatrics exposure applies to residency programs too. This is concerning because people aged 65 years or older make up about 1/6 of the U.S. population, but they account for more than 1/3 of healthcare spending. They're a huge share of the patients physicians actually see, no matter the specialty. At the same time, the pipeline of geriatric specialists is quite small. More than half of geriatrics fellowship spots have gone unfilled for the past few years, including this past year, when fewer than 40% of positions were filled. So the field's goal has increasingly shifted from, we need more geriatricians, which is still true, to we need every clinician to graduate with a foundation in geriatrics, whether you go into primary care, surgery, radiology, oncology, or psychiatry.
And you found, though, that the reality on the ground doesn't always match that goal. What are the biggest challenges to making geriatrics more routine?
There are a few barriers that came up again and again during my reporting, but two felt especially important. The first is the lack of accountability. Unlike other specialties that focus on specific populations, like pediatrics or OB-GYN, geriatrics often isn't a clearly tested, clearly required domain. And without a strong, explicit requirement, geriatrics becomes easy to sideline. As one expert put it, people don't respond to what they're not being graded on. The second major barrier is a misunderstanding of what geriatrics is. Many clinicians believe that they've learned geriatrics because they routinely care for older patients. But geriatrics is a philosophy of high-quality, person-centered care that relies on a distinct skill set. Things like preventing and managing syndromes like delirium or falls, reviewing medications and deprescribing when appropriate, and understanding how patients' values guide the type of medical care that they want to receive. There's also a cultural layer that many of the folks that I interviewed hinted at. Ageism can quietly shape what people prioritize. If older adults are seen as less likely to recover, or if disability is assumed to be inevitable, there's less urgency to learn these skills.
And you also describe examples of what works and cite experts who believe that the next big gains may come from health systems. Walk us through geriatrics education done right.
Sure. So on the education side, medical schools that do integrate geriatrics education are increasingly emphasizing early exposure to different care settings, nursing homes, skilled nursing facilities, and home-based care, as well as interprofessional care, with trainees learning from dedicated sessions with pharmacists, occupational and physical therapists, and social workers. Experts also emphasize that national initiatives like age-friendly health systems have started hardwiring geriatrics principles into routine care. For example, some systems have started screening all new patients for delirium and documenting what matters most to patients in their electronic health records. When those practices are built into clinical workflows, physicians are supported in making good decisions, and trainees see good older adult care modeled consistently.
Thanks, Emily. All right, if you'd like to learn more, we'll include a link to Emily's story in the show description. This week, we also have my reporting on a new strain of influenza A, H3N2, called subclade K. I spoke with global health experts tracking infection patterns around the world to better understand if it has the potential to lead to a more severe flu season or a less effective vaccine here in the U.S. You can find all of our stories at jamamedicalnews.com. Thanks to Emily Harris for joining me. I'm Kate Schweitzer for JAMA Medical News. This episode was produced by Daniel Morrow at the JAMA Network. To follow this and other JAMA Network podcasts, please visit us online at jamanetworkaudio.com. Thanks for listening and join us again next week.
This content is protected by copyright by the American Medical Association with all rights reserved, including those for text and data mining, AI training, and similar technologies.